Hi, welcome to Nerdiest Prime, where we are reviewing every episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. This week we are doing Datalore. The Enterprise takes a brief detour to Data's home world, Omicron Theta, and somewhere along the way they must have passed through a space anomaly that gave everyone severe head trauma and reduced their IQs by several hundred points because they are easily duped and almost destroyed by Lore, Data's evil twin brother, whose attempts to impersonate Data are sloppy and obvious. The crew engage in confusing discourse about the when and what happened on the planet that is hard to make sense of. Geordi's supervision locates a secret bunker, and they find an android's rear end and several other mechanical body parts that, when put together, make a twin of Data. They also find some children's drawings of a scary space snowflake. The crew reassemble the android, who tells them that his name is Lore and is in no way evil. The crew say okay and give him complete run of the ship, including computer access and an in-depth tutorial of the bridge controls. Laura places a collect call to the space snowflake, called a crystalline entity, and offers the Enterprise as a delicious meal. Only Wesley suspects that Laura is homicidal, but Picard tells him to shut his pie hole and kicks him off the bridge. Laura then gives Data some robot poison and a glass of champagne, which makes no sense, but I guess we'll go with it. He then assumes Data's identity and lures the Enterprise to the space snowflake, which tries to eat them. He also chest punches Worf, which is pretty badass, and is like Worf's third or fourth defeat in hand-to-hand combat this season. Data is reactivated after the deception is revealed and confronts Lore in the cargo bay. There's an android fight, and Dr. Crusher somehow gets her arm set on fire by a phaser. Data and Wesley then work together to beam Lore out into space so he can live to kill another day rather than recover and disassemble him. The end. And let's start with our first impressions. Jenny.
Well, you know what? It's hard to say I have a first impression because I've seen this episode many, many times. But you know what? Instead of a first impression, what I have is baggage that I've been carrying around about this episode. Because I'm coming into this episode feeling triggered by it because I know that it contains some important Data backstory, lore, if you will. But it also is the episode where everybody's brains fall out. So yeah. So that's where I started with this episode.
So would you say that you like it or you don't like it?
I don't not like it.
Great. Okay, let's go to Alan.
Oh, this episode is so stupid. I love it. It's entertaining, but it's so stupid. And the real story in here is not Data's backstory. It's that somehow the crew has been afflicted by a mysterious brain-damaging disease that made them completely incompetent. I thought about Namir, how season 1 of Next Generation is. It's smart people doing smart things. I love season 1 Next Generation.
Mostly it is.
No smart people doing smart things in this episode. They're all dumb as a doornail. The only one that's got any sense is Wesley for once. And yeah. But there's still, like, Brent Spiner puts on a great performance. You gotta love it. There are some great moments. But yeah, it's just bogged down by piss poor writing.
The mayor.
Okay. So I mean, first of all, I think the whole show is about smart people doing smart things, not just season 1, Alan. Thank you very much for misquoting me to prove your point.
We've only watched season 1 so far, so I mean that's you're basing your comment on what we watched so far.
I guess
this is not a good shining example of that.
No, it's not. But I really, for some reason, I really like this episode. And I know there's some dumb parts, but I don't think it's any dumber than any other Star Trek episode. I think there are parts that are just kind of like you just have to suspend disbelief. for a good
Oh, yeah.
story, and it's fun to watch. You know, I think Brent Spiner does a really good job, and I think the introduction of the lore character is a lot of fun, and the crystalline entity. You know, it's all these great little elements that come together for a pretty solid Star Trek episode. We can talk about the things that don't make sense, but I bet most episodes of Star Trek, you can go, that doesn't make sense. Well, they shouldn't do that. How come they didn't figure that thing out? You know, but it's all in service of the story. So I'm willing to give them that because, but I will say that when Geordi came back from looking at the crystalline entity from a window, I immediately thought of Alan.
I know.
He's always like, Geordi looks out the window again.
I don't know why he does that so many times in the early season one.
I don't know.
And then they just drop it.
Because they realized it was pretty dumb.
Because they're like, the visor does what the sensors do.
Yeah.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. Exactly. I want an episode where he doesn't just go to the window, but they force him to go outside, like in a spacesuit. And he's like, but I could just look through the window. And they're like, no, we better go outside just in case.
Be unimpeded. Get closer.
Well, I think once they didn't know, he was like one of those characters in season one where they didn't really know exactly what his function was and what they were going to do with him.
Mm-hmm.
So they would try this and try that, and of course the visor was like it's on his face. So let's do something with that. Let's make him go out, look out a window.
Yeah.
But once he got down to engineering, he had a purpose in life, and then those days were over. So
he had no window.
No windows.
No window. Yeah, it's a basement of the Enterprise. It's like the IT department. Yeah, exactly.
He's like, you're going down to the basement. He's like, oh, I like it here.
Where are my Cheetos?
Captain's log, stardate 41242.4. Our last assignment has taken us into the remote Omicron Theta star system, home of our android crew member, Lieutenant Commander Data.
I think that this episode has a great premise that it just does not deliver on because of poor writing. But I think it's great. There's great directing. There's some great acting in it. There's awesome music. And it's funny. I went into this episode, this rewatch yesterday, being like really looking forward to it. And then the episode started, and I was like, "Oh, it's Datalore, not hiding cube."
Nice.
This is not as good as that. Oh yeah, this episode is not as good. But I think and the production design is amazing. I think this whole exploring Data's backstory and then going to his birthplace and seeing like Dr. Soom's lab and all the moody music and the cool like smoke effects when they open the door and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, so I guess we could just start with kind of at the beginning, and I feel like almost right away we're going to get into like some questionable like why is this happening? They're on the bridge and everybody's kind of expositioning and asking each other random questions that don't make any sense that they should have known already. And the logic starts falling apart right away, like in terms of later on when we find out, trying to figure out the chronology of events of what has happened.
Mm-hmm. That makes no sense.
Yeah,
I have a detailed list. I have a lot to say about it.
Okay,
Sorry.
so I want to get to it. So I'm just gonna. I think that first scene is interesting, where he's sneezing in front of the mirror, and first of all, it's like I kind of find it corny, but then I realize thematically it makes a lot of sense because he's looking into a mirror, and Laura is like a reflection of who he is, and also the whole theme is the theme is Laura keep saying I'm more human than you and I'm better than you, and here is this scene where Data's trying to like do something that's human, like he's practicing because he's got this kind of insecurity, like I can't sneeze, and then that's going to play into how Laura's going to manipulate him. It's really the episode.
I like this episode more because you said that. Thank you.
I don't think that was the original intention, though. It's a nice interpretation, but I figure
No,
just
I
thought it'd
think
be
that's,
funny.
no,
it is.
there's a lot of mirrors in this episode, and I don't think that's an accident. There's lots of people. It's like Hitchcock. There's lots of shooting with mirrors around mirrors.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot that.
Who directed this? Was it Robert Ballman?
Yes, ma'am. And I forgot. I didn't want to pick on Namir also, but Namir also says, he often says, I like that you like Star Trek because it's professional people just doing their jobs. And in this episode, they're not doing their jobs. They're doing a really bad job at doing their jobs.
Are they? I don't know. We can talk about it. I don't really.
We are going to talk about. We're going to get into it. Okay, let's start. Let's start about. So we get on Data's planet. It's very exciting. We're seeing Data's home, and so it starts to fall apart right away when he's like, "This is where they found me," and you're like, "Okay, what? Why would they?" Okay, they left him there, and they're saying that the whole planet had vegetation in farmland when they found him.
This once was rich farmland. I'd say something like 20 to 30 years ago.
I was discovered 26 years ago.
I don't think that's right.
Well,
No.
go, Jenny.
It's not right. It's not right. But none of it's right.
Okay, so go through your list.
Okay. So the Tripoli crew found, described it as being like a farmland place, right? On top of that, then also they found Data lying there under a layer of dust, he said. So he was just like out there by himself for a while. But also, hang on, inside, and okay, fine, so that everybody went inside fast. The crystal entity came. But also there are drawings that the children did of the crystalline entity, even though there's nobody in the cave, so clearly the crystalline entity killed everyone on the planet. So, and then on top of that, Lore was disassembled, and while he was disassembled, somehow managed to call the crystalline entity. Because he was mad that they disassembled him.
So I have a response. I
Please.
think
Please.
of course he did. So I don't think it happened all at once. I think he calls the crystalline entity, and the crystalline entity is sort of like on its way. And then I think, we can say that they have some technology, they know it's coming, right? So they have some warning. Maybe Lore told them or did something. Like, there's some unanswered questions there. There's holes, but I wouldn't call them holes. I would just say it's just not. They're not. It's just not information that was relevant to the story. So they need to tell it.
Okay.
So
but the pictures the children drew.
Yeah, it's like people running
So
away.
they saw
in
the
error.
crystalline entity and then they left, but then somehow it got to them.
The way I always thought of it was that Lore calls a crystalline entity, and then the crystalline entity just comes to the planet and doesn't do anything right away. It just like stays there for a little bit. It like waits to figure out what it's going to do. So they can see it in the sky. And then so as they see it in the sky, the kids are like, oh my God, this is terrifying. I'm going to draw it to make myself feel better. And they draw it. And then they go try and hide in the caves. But and then the settlers realize that Lore's the one that called the crystalline entity. Then they disassemble Lore, but it doesn't matter. And then the crystalline entity is like, oh, okay. And then boom, it comes in and then kills everybody. So I think there's some space there between when it first arrives and it, and then it, I don't know what it does, eats everybody up. How does a crystal eat people? I have no idea.
How late were you up last night thinking this up?
Except that they disassembled Lore and then made Data.
Did they?
Did they disassemble
Lore and then?
Because he
and
was
then
like,
make them
"You're
come
no
out
good. I'm gonna make a new one." Yeah.
But not only that, but there's huge gaps in the timeline. Like
The fact that Lore knows who Data is kind of messed up. So go on. Sorry, Lucas.
Okay, this is the biggest point. So there's a colony that's under attack by an alien for over 3 years, and they don't call for help. And then the Tripoli goes and
they're scientists.
But the Tripoli goes there, and what do they find? They find like just an empty colony, and they don't go like
with farmland.
We're from. They don't think that this is weird, and they just find, oh, there's a robot. Let's take the robot, and then let's not investigate or go any further with this
for 26 years.
Well, I always thought it was just Dr. Nguyen Sung was escaping, right? Like he was like, he ran away to a planet because he wanted to do his own research, and then took a bunch of people with him that sort of believed in him. So they wanted to be their own colony outside. Like they wanted to develop, positronic robots or androids on their own without any sort of interference. So it was like a secret little. There's a lot of backstory here that can be explained or explored, but they just didn't have the time to do it. So,
but the problem is in the gaps in the backstory. The problem is that the backstory is completely inconsistent, and the gaps don't help the fact that it's completely inconsistent.
What you're saying about Soong coming to that planet to do the work, absolutely, that all checks out. Remember, Julia's with him, right? Yeah. Anyway,
all right.
Go on. No, I'm talking.
Carry on.
And continue.
And so he makes Lore, and Lore isn't right. So at some point he either starts working on Data before he disassembles Lore, or he disassembles Lore and then starts working on Data. Either way, Lore gets disassembled before Data is conscious.
Yeah, I don't think that it was like Lore gets disassembled and then he builds Data. I think they were kind of at the same time, right? Like he built like Lore exists, and then Lore's kind of doing his thing, and then Nguyen Sung is like, oh, Lore really sucks, and so he starts building Data, right? So it wasn't like he disassembles Lore first and then starts building Data. I think there's some overlap there.
Okay.
Right. So then, when Lore is disassembled, Data already exists, right? Like he's just, and then for some reason they put him outside on a table of some kind to be found.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit weird,
also?
but
they didn't specify.
Oh,
but
I thought they did.
They didn't specify, but okay. I imagine that he was probably naked.
Yeah.
Maybe he had a little fig leaf or something over his.
Makes sense.
All of the attachments.
Yeah.
Over his attachments.
Anyway,
Okay,
thank you for breaking this down with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it can make sense as long as we want it to make sense.
And listen, I'm the biggest proponent of that. So,
Alan, do you want to say anything?
I can't figure this out, and it bugs me. My LCD and my need for structure and symmetry and all that. This just flies in the face of everything I believe in because it makes no sense. I can't reconcile it. It's like Picard season 2. It's like I don't get how this all goes together.
we talked it through. We just made it make sense.
I have a timeline. This is the timeline I have. Lore is created. Data is created. Lore calls the crystalline entity. Crystalline entity attacks. They deactivate Lore. Colonists put the memory in Data. Colonists leave the Data outside. USS Tripoli discovers Data. Then the planet vegetation disappears, so the crystalline entity attacks again, kills everybody. But what happened to the colonists? But the problem is, if all the colonists are dead, then why is there a door to the secret? Why is the door to the secret lab closed? And why is the lab empty?
Okay.
Well, we don't know how the crystalline entity destroys things. I just assume
seen it.
We do know.
In Silicon Avatar.
Oh, so it just makes things disappear, right?
Everybody was protected by running to a cave.
So with exactly. So with the vegetation being gone, the crystalline entity did that, right?
Yeah, so that's what it did. So it did the same thing to the people.
Yeah.
So it did the same thing to the people, right? So they
But
were
when
in
the
there.
people were
and it's
underground in a cave, they were protected.
So how did they die?
Well, they thought they were protected, but they weren't. the crystalline entity is smarter than that. It used one of its crystalline tentacles and pushed the button, the back door opened, and he just looked in there.
The crystalline entity also has a visor. And it can see the door.
Yeah, exactly. It just knocked on the door. I was like, "Hey, I'm a friend. Let me in." And they're like, "Okay, it's Data. You forgot to give me clothes." I think it's just like a Star Trek-y. It like is able to penetrate the stone and rock, and it suck them all up. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. A little log that they could have found in the underground thing, 30 seconds of finding a colonist log could have answered all this stuff instead
You
of
mean the
just
logs
being
that are in
stupid.
Data's head?
That he apparently he could answer it, but he doesn't.
And do you notice that his memories, he has a very like faulty, unreliable memory that just conveniently he remembers things. He's like, "Ooh, this activates a memory remnant," and then he just starts like, "Oh, I remember. This sounds familiar." I'm like, "What? Either you have the memories or you don't. You're like a robot."
Well, okay, but hang on. We can't do the like calling him a robot thing, because there's so many other things that he should just know how to do. Like he should just know how to sneeze, right? Or laugh, right? It's recorded. He should just be able to mimic that stuff. You know what I mean? So like, I think it's Lucas is like, I don't believe a word you're saying, but but I think it's like the nature of him, the way he's been built, right? He's not like a regular android, so things happen differently in his brain. So he can't just like recall all of these memory remnants, like he's got a hard drive in his brain. It doesn't work that way.
Except when he does it in Silicon Avatar.
I mean, data's complicated.
But yeah, Data is
How much is
complicated.
Terraman paying you to come up with this bullshit?
How does everybody think about the lab? I thought the lab was amazing.
It was
Lab was
cool actually seeing that lab with that round door. There's and like the little step up area over on the side. They reused that set for the rest of the season. They just like redressed and regressed, like it's just specifically in Coming of Age coming up when Wesley has to do his like fear test thing. It's almost the same room. It's crazy.
Well, is that a redress of Encounter Farpoint? Well, the ship,
This
alien
set,
ship.
I checked, and Larry Nemechek said that this episode, that this set was built for this episode, but then was reused. Yeah.
And is this the first time that we've seen the weird double lasers? That's in a bunch of episodes.
Yeah,
I think
is, right?
I think this is the one. Yes, shows up in lower decks.
Yeah.
But it's got a third tube in lower decks. It's like a mutated tube.
I was gonna watch it on Netflix and do a double speed because I thought I was running out of time. But then when I wasn't, I got it the Blu-ray and watched it in full HD. And it's funny now to watch that in HD and to see when they pick up Data's head. Like you can see it's like the neck connectors are like all like poorly painted, like silver dots and dashes and things. In the 80s, that probably looked really cool. And like, oh, it's very mechanical, like connecting point. But when you watch it in HD, it's just like somebody just paints that on and just it looks really fake, like my kid painting it.
Love seeing that stuff because it's sort of it really speaks to how like what the art department actually had to do and the budget that they were working with and how well they managed considering like it's
it looks great on a 20 inch TV in the 90s. But
it's funny, one of my only notes about that was that I thought in Time's Arrow when they had his head again, it was better head, but also it
I don't
they did
understand.
a better
What's
job.
so funny?
They did a better job making it heavier, either actually making it heavier or making it look heavier. Because this one looked like it was made out of styrofoam.
Yeah, it was like a mannequin.
He was like holding it with his fingertips, and I know Data's. Yeah, exactly. Data's strong, but like, you know.
I really love that opening, and for a number of reasons, like I love the set. I think the set is great. I like the mystery, like they don't really know what's going on, and they use like this music that reminds me of Alien, right? Like it's like do 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 do. It's like it's super creepy. Yeah, and then everything has this air of like menace to it, and
the way the hallways lit.
Yeah, the way the hallways lit, all of that, so great. And then my favorite part is when they open that chamber that's like super foggy, and then they see Data has that clear mask of his face, and he picks it up and he puts it on his face, and it's like it totally reminds me of Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs when he puts somebody else's face on his face. Yeah. And you're like, oh god, it's so psychotic. Yeah, it's very psychotic. Yeah, it's so it's great. That whole opening I really love.
I don't want to say that I'm a bigger Trekkie than everybody else here, but to watch this episode, went all the way to the library and got the DVD and watched it on DVD. So I didn't have the fancy 4K version where I saw the little sticky things on the.
Mm-hmm. Only Blu-ray. There's no 4K version.
Yeah, I think the most surprising thing about this whole thing is that you actually have a library card.
What? Why is that surprising?
I don't know. You just don't seem like a library card kind of guy.
He totally seems like a library kind of guy.
I don't know. He seems like I'm going to download everything over torrent kind of guy.
That's amazing.
What have you found?
All I found is that these red lights keep moving back and forth. Aside from that, this thing seems to have no other function whatsoever, sir.
Well, that's impossible. It must have some sort of function. I mean, why would the government put all that money into a thing with red lights that keep going back and forth? Doesn't make any sense. Keep working.
I was just remembering, because Namir, your question was about the tube things. The first time they show up is in Star Trek 2, which was like 5 years before this episode.
Right.
So that's the first time.
Wait, no, the first time it shows up is in The Last Starfighter.
Yes.
Then he's
we're not allowed to talk about. Okay, sorry, it's not
Last Starfighter is after Wrath of Khan. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I just remember it's in The Last
82.
Starfighter.
Last Starfighter is 84.
Is it?
There we go.
Oh, okay.
Alan's such
a good guess. Alan, thanks for ruining it.
You know, for 1987, those lore buttons, that was pretty like risque. Sticking a butt up there.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to get into the sexy stuff? Because we can.
Yeah, I want to get into
the
lore buns. What? What sexy stuff though?
There's like zero sexy stuff. What are you talking about?
Okay. So.
Or was it the nipples?
Yeah.
I guess he did the nipples to his uniform.
Nipples, yeah, male nipples are
hilarious.
Nipples?
Especially male android nipples.
Well,
if you're enjoying this, folks, be sure to like and subscribe.
All this nipple talk got me all randy.
Sorry, what was that?
So we go up to the ship and they bring up all the parts of data of the parts of lore. Like, I don't understand the logic. Data's like, I really want to bring my brother up, and everybody's like, sure, sounds good. And it's like, wait a minute, what is the military like? Namir, you're talking about like, professionals following the rules, and they have
some containment concerns.
Yeah, they have they should have some sort of protocol for all these things, but they just like willy-nilly decide to like gather the things and bring them over to the ship, and then let's just reassemble.
Maybe they did put him in quarantine, but they're not gonna. What are we gonna watch? Like 15 hours of lore in quarantine? Like they just beam him up. We just assume it happens, and then he's with Argyle and Crusher.
Why did they do it? Why did they do it in Soong's lab where all the stuff is?
Because Sugi's a genius. They don't know how to use any of that stuff.
They don't know how to put them together already. They had to look at Data. Like, Data, can we poke at you and stick our fingers in your back?
I didn't have a problem with that. It kind of made sense for them to bring lore parts back to the ship.
I don't know. It seemed like a big risk.
Well, because they have stuff to do. They have places to go and missions to complete. They're putting together lore on their way to their next thing.
Do you guys know the Argyle story?
No, tell us the Argyle, because I noticed that Chief Argyle was back in this episode, and what other episodes was he in? He was in where
this was his last one.
Right, he was in Nowhere.
He was only the two of them. He was only the two.
Just the two.
Apparently, the actor, whose name is escaping me right now, but he...
Eager.
Yeah, thank you. He really thought that Argyle was awesome and should be the chief engineer permanently, and I guess petitioned to become a regular, and then they fired him. They're like, and goodbye. Because I guess he was I think he was quite pleased with his performance and felt that he deserved,
He wasn't attractive enough to be in that cast.
Wait.
I thought he gave a good performance.
He was fine, but he wasn't like main character in basically every episode kind of material actor. I think there's a limit for Argyle.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
no O'Brien.
Can you imagine Argyle in Booby Trap? Really?
No, that'd be weird. That'd be weird.
No sex appeal.
Yeah.
No sex.
Yeah.
No.
I just think it's funny how in the reassembly scene that everybody is very awkward about Dana's anatomy. Like he's a robot. Like, oh, if we need to look at your parts, see how he's put together, can we do that? Can we?
No,
but everybody's such a prude.
That's the whole point. He's not a robot. He's an android. He's part of the crew. That's the whole point of the episode, is that he's actually human to them. Mm-hmm. Right? He's like a real person.
Yeah. Like they even talk about it.
Yeah. Did you watch this episode? I mean, I don't.
Yes, I did.
Are you sure?
I'm just saying that people. Okay, so let's get into the awkward, sexy talk.
I don't know.
I'm so confused about this.
Me too.
Observation.
We know how to turn it on.
So this is they're in the observation lounge. They're all acting super awkward around Data. That's Data, Riker, LaForge, and Picard. They're super awkward, and then Riker goes, "Will it have all its parts?" And then LaForge is like, "Will we know how to turn it on?"
Oh.
Does it appear to have all your parts?
Completely, sir.
Will we know how to turn it on?
I see.
And then
I was too busy fretting about the fact that they kept not using communicators in this episode, and they kept sending people to go get people, because they'd already sent Wesley to get Data once, and then Picard obviously messaged Beverly to tell Data to go up to the observation lounge, and then 5 minutes later
they
called them back. Yeah.
What was the point of this meeting? And I was like, and it was weird too, because it seemed like Riker was really obsessed with those kids' drawings. He's like, these are drawings from proud parents. I'm telling you. They're very proud. They were hanging everywhere. But it's like they were in big conversation when Data walks in, but then your Riker presents the photo to Picard. I'm like, have you already showed him this? You were already in big conversation. This was your
debrief.
prop. Yeah, this was your thing you had to show. Like,
they started assembling lore before they did the debrief.
Well,
it was very awkward.
I remember Alan and I a long time ago, it's like maybe 10 years ago. It was the first. It was funny because I'd seen this episode many times before. But Alan and I watched that scene where Riker says, "Will it have all its parts?" And
he has a creepy smile too, like
all
and LaForge is so like, "Do we know how to turn it on?" And it's just like, and Alan and I kind of like totally heard it differently for the first time ever, and it was like we just lost our shit because you're like, they're just asking about his penis. They're just asking, is he fully functional?
Oh my god.
That sounds like a Roddenberry edit. Like Roddenberry went in and added those 2 lines.
Yes.
Oh, actually, this episode is Gene Roddenberry's final on-screen writing credit.
Interesting.
Star Trek.
This episode apparently also had like the most change from the original version of the script to what it became. Like when they started writing it.
Oh, did it start off good?
Well, the other android wasn't Lore. The other android was like a female android and was like put in dangerous situations or something. I don't think it was good. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't sound
It
very
already
good.
sounds better.
But yeah, they like and
Way worse.
yeah.
Wasn't it funny when they did the robot surgery scene where they were like trying to put Lore together, that like you could see inside of him and he just basically looked like inside a 1950s television set?
Oh, because he got that giant magnifying glass thing over his open wound.
And his parts are just basically a mannequin plate painted.
Well,
Chopped up.
No, those were spiner chests. Those were actual spiner torsos under there.
Yeah, I'm talking about when they were fully assembled and they were doing the magnifying things,
Like
and
in the
you could
little
see,
surgery thing.
Yeah, you could see inside the chest, and it was just like all these like random like cathode ray tubes or something.
Yeah.
Okay, like the robot from
ray tubes.
That's all they had. Well,
Lucas is
Like,
not a
I-
TV
Yeah.
repairman. He doesn't know.
No, he's definitely not.
cathode.
No,
Cathode ray.
that's why your robot never worked.
Did you just mix up cathode and hemorrhoid? That's not what happened. I think that's what happened.
It's an easy mistake.
Yeah, totally. Everyone does that.
No, bye.
I need this cream for my cathodes.
Okay, so the facial tick gimmick. What does everybody think about this? Laura has
Dumb.
a weird face gimmick.
Very dumb.
Jetty, tell me.
Like I get it's an evil twin situation. They're gonna do what's the identifying thing that makes them different. It's such a random thing. Like it's just so, I don't know. And like when it happens is random, and then he like does it to Data, and then he's like Data's just doing it on the floor. Like anyway, I don't know. Once again, the logic of or like the hows and the whys. Oh, you know what? But I'm the person that doesn't care about the hows and the whys.
Yeah.
I guess in this episode I do. I don't know.
Well,
like
it's
we
because
switched spots.
you haven't found an explanation. You haven't found an explanation. There's an explanation.
Well, what kind of explanation do you need? I don't understand. He's got a weird tick thing.
Yeah, but like,
Dumb.
Like,
what triggers it? When is it happening? Why? When he
Like
makes
his
it
mouse
happen on
robot?
Data on the floor, Data's face is just going.
well,
like,
I know what triggered it. It's because Argyle's bad at his job. Right? He's just like, I guess this goes here. I don't know. Let's connect this.
I never thought of that before. Actually, I'll buy that 100%.
Like
No wonder he gets replaced.
He didn't connect the smile muscles right.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah, he didn't. He's like, good enough.
Yeah, especially because it was so easy to fix.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, you just had to wave a light over it. And fix
Yeah.
That's a
that.
good thought. That's a good thought. I never thought about that. I just thought it was something inherent that Laura had because he was evil. But now it's like, oh no, of course he's gonna have, when you reassemble something, there's gonna be some glitch. There's gonna be bugs to work out. It's like
Argyle's
a bug
down in sick bay with like 2 pieces going like, I don't know where these were supposed to go.
That's right. And then we never see him again in the show. So I think these two things are connected.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they took him aside. They're like, you know what? That was not cool.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for why this all went south.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, Laura's actually like a really sweet android, but he just was put together incorrectly.
Oh, you got to say evil. You got to say the good.
Okay, and then there's a super random transition from the sick bay. Laura opens his eyes, and then he's on the bridge, fully dressed.
And they're giving him like, and they're just like, here, this is how this works, and this is how you fly the ship, and blah blah blah. And Data comes out and is like, this is highly irregular. You shouldn't be on the bridge. And everyone else is like, oh, Data, I guess you're right. Blah, blah. Like,
And Riker thinks he's
But
all
just
clever
remember,
with his
they're
math problem.
professionals, and they got protocols, and then they're just doing.
Yeah, right, Demir?
No, okay. I don't know. Can I respond to this now? Because I
Please.
have a reason.
please
So
do.
so the way that I was thinking about it was that they're having trouble separating data and lore, right? So
Okay.
they trust data. So when
Okay.
lore comes in, they're like, yeah, of course we're going to trust lore because they're exactly the same, being, or they're
I love
basically
this.
twins. Yeah, they're basically twins. So they're
Yeah.
setting themselves up. But Riker's like, wait a second, something's up. So it really plays into the story, right? Like they
Yeah.
inherently are trusting lore just because he happens to look and act like data.
You know what? See, you're just, thank you. That's perfect.
Okay.
I'll accept that.
Thank
Yes.
you.
I will
Yeah,
not.
It makes sense.
I'm
Well,
coming
you
out of
are.
this loving this episode.
It's not as bad an episode as
No, it's
everyone
not.
says it is.
You're right.
There's a lot of straining to explain all this stuff, and I'm like, no,
I don't think it is.
I would not. There should be some checks and balances here for this stuff. I mean, Data had to go to Starfleet Academy and everything. He had to go through to prove himself, and they don't know the first thing about this robot, android,
Well,
whatever.
no, I know, but they made a mistake, and they're like they checked
A
themselves.
big
And they're like,
mistake.
oh, wait it was, yeah, absolutely. But that only would happen with data and lore. That would only happen because lore looks and acts exactly like data.
Man,
And then Riker's like, oh, wait a second, yeah, hey, I'm going to throw you this test, and then Data's like, he was actually testing you, right?
it's a good thing to survive this, because they would have felt pretty stupid in the history books. Be like, oh, what happened to the Enterprise D? Well, they just handed over control to an android they just met. They say,
Well, I
he
think-
seems like a nice guy. You can fly the ship. And then they flew him into his son.
I think all that is sort of forgivable to a point, and then Data is kind of being smart and sort of that scene, and then the very next scene he does the same mistake that he does that Captain Kirk did with Khan Noonien Singh, which is like, oh, here, this is our library, read everything, and Data just parks him in front of the internet and says, everything you want to know about everything is right here. And of course, that's how he figured out to do everything.
Yeah, he won't become Skynet or anything.
Yeah, but why wouldn't he? Like, Lore's not a prisoner. He's a guest on their ship. Like, as a guest, you have access to the internet or whatever their version of
But
the internet is.
they don't know his deal. I don't know. It just seems like they didn't spend enough time vetting him.
I think this is the main problem with the episode for me, is that the episode goes through so much effort in establishing Lore as a bad guy from the get-go. The evil music in the lab, and he opens his eyes and like, dun, 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 dun. And so we all know he's evil. And everybody in the show just ends up looking dumb because they're like, what are you doing? Letty, press buttons.
I
Roll the
know.
ship. You know.
Okay,
And so
look, but it's a story about twins. Anytime there's like an undiscovered twin that suddenly is discovered, that twin is evil. Like, one of them is going to be evil. There's no way around that. Like, there's no story of both of them are like super sweet and awesome, right? That's like a 15-minute episode of them being just really great to each other.
And it's true that in those situations, often people will then project their warm feelings that they have for their friend to the twin, because they go, oh, the twin.
In the story, the audience, like, we know that, right? We know one of you is going to be evil. So, like, why hide it? Because otherwise it's the opposite of that is going to be like, of course we know this guy's evil. Just tell us, just get on with it.
You want your villain to be clever enough to fool the heroes while the heroes are still being competent and trying to do the job to the best of their ability. And it seems like from watching other episodes up to this point, the heroes just got really stupid and really sloppy, and it made no sense like that they weren't questioning this or just going through proper steps and procedures to. This is what I hate about it. Like, I just want a better level. Like, I don't want the villain to be successful because the character suddenly becomes stupid. I want smart characters to be tricked by a clever opponent, and then there'd be a game of chess happening there, where it's like everybody's on their A game, and this is it just felt so one sided. I'm like just Lord's like, oh man, am I gonna be a good villain today? Because I found a bunch of idiots that I can manipulate. Like, boy, am I lucky. No way they're gonna defeat me. Well, and that's my frustration.
Yeah, well, I was just I wanted to just mention here that Brent Spiner does such a good job of doing lore and doing data and finding a character and distincting. He's basically looking exactly the same. There's like maybe a costume change, but aside from that, but he makes them feel like two different people. And it's just recently we saw season 3 of Picard where Laura came back, and I was so impressed about how consistent that performance has been throughout the years. It's like 35 years later, and he's like, unlike some other Next Generation actors who will remain nameless, he's kept it really consistent all the way through, and because he's a fantastic actor, and I just appreciate that. What, Jenny?
Are you giving Patrick Stewart
Yes, I am.
You can have the chicken.
I'll be honest.
Throwing shade on Sir Patrick.
I think I blocked out season 3 of Picard because I don't even remember lore.
Season 3.
I know what you're saying. I understand the words that you're saying. I just like that whole season is just a blur to me now.
I am truly just like.
And this is how it ends. This is how it'll end.
Disgusted. I'm disgusted with
me
you.
and this guy are like, what?
I like season 3 of Picard.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I guess
fine.
I'm just saying Brent Spiner is a great actor. That's all I'm saying.
He is. I will agree with that. Like you never.
Yes, he is.
You never felt like they weren't two different beings, which was kind of amazing, right? Even when they were in the same shot together, and that was great.
And they did a really good job of doing the split screen and using doubles. And there was this one shot specifically where, and we're about to talk about that dumb scene where Lore tricks Data into drinking some poison champagne, but
robot poison.
Robot poison. What?
Droid roofies.
I don't know.
But in that scene they're together, and Lore puts the glass down on the table, and Data picks it up. And
it's great too because that's like basically one shot, isn't it? Like where he drops the thing, Data comes in, and he hands it over. It's all one, seemingly one shot.
Yeah, it's all shot in one shot. So that means that they would have had to film Brent Spiner as Lore for him to do the whole scene, and then get changed, and then sort of in the same take do the Data side of it. Because if any other take, he would not have put the glass in the same spot. Even if there was a marker on the table, the most minute shift, you would have been able to see it once they cut it.
Yeah,
so
that's really good. It's seamless.
They had to do it one time and put the glass down and have the other person, and Brent, picks it up. And so, what I noticed is that Brent Spiner, or as Data, hesitates to pick up the glass, and I think that's to give the glass enough time for the liquid to settle before he touches it, because otherwise, when they cut to it, it would shift. There'd be a little jump cut.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And there's other little moments like that where they're trying to they're giving space. There's another one where they're coming down the corridor, and then and Data's on one side and Laura's on the other, and then Laura walks out, and then Data thinks pensively for a moment before he crosses to give the visual effects guy enough time to move the split screen over or something.
Yeah, it's smart. All of that stuff is seamless. You're never oh, there's the line in between the two.
Yeah.
The fact that I didn't even notice it is a testament to their work.
Yeah.
And I saw it on the original DVD, so that was even then it looked good. It wasn't some 4K remastered.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
On Alan's version is just some obvious stand-in with like a
Perfect.
mustache.
Oh yeah, man. The stunt doubles look nothing like the actors do in those fight scenes in Blu-ray. No.
Okay, so Lore. Okay, there's two scenes I like, but let's talk about the Lore poisons Data scene, which to me never made any sense. What does Alan think?
I don't know. Would they just pour water in there and get a circuitry? Why was he drinking? I don't understand. It's a cool scene. Like
drink.
that's fine. Again, that's one of my positives of this show. Like you say, he does such a great job with the two characters. But I didn't understand how Data gets poisoned. Like if they just threw in just 5 seconds of technobabble, like or show him putting in some sort of pellet, or I don't know. I just don't understand how he poisoned the android.
Pouring powder into the.
But what is it? I just wish we knew what it was. Like
It's
what
the
is
stuff
No,
it?
and also where the hell did he get it?
No. It's the stuff that he took from medical. They were talking
Yeah,
about that.
They
or
were talking
engineering.
about on the bridge.
Yeah.
But what does it do?
Well, it knocks you out, I guess, if you're a robot. But they talk about Lore being in a place where he's not supposed to be.
Poison on...
No, it's not robot poison.
No.
It's like he, he's going to get all these two things, whatever they are, and then I think Tasha comments it, or it's like somebody in security, like Worf comments on, Lore went and got this stuff. And Data's like, that's just like a sedative or antiseptic for humans. It's the same thing. I wouldn't worry about it.
My turbo sensors say he went to deck 4. Worf?
Where you examine some micro miniature work tools and some fine grind quadritanium.
Which is used in our construction. That particular compound is no more suspicious, sir, than a human looking for an antiseptic or an ointment.
So I just assumed that was the thing that he put in the
Apparently
drink.
he should have, because it'd be robot
effect.
poison.
Yeah.
Just
yeah,
that
exactly.
line. And secondly, is everyone okay with that?
Well, I think that is the question, really. It's like they probably should have asked a couple of things. But I think Data was heading down to talk to Lore about it.
How much can you trust Data now?
I trust him completely, Lieutenant. But everyone should also realize that was a necessary and legitimate security question.
No, and how awkward was that for Kasha when she had her one security question? And they
Right?
everybody should be proud of her. That was a good security thing to do. I'm like, really? I was like, she's probably like, oh.
She's like, I just, I didn't mean it. We love Data. Don't.
That it was like, you're making me cringe. Shut up.
That was insane.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
He treated her like she was like 5 years old.
She was like, if you weren't the captain right now.
I wonder if they were planning on having some sort of romance or something between the two of those, like later on, if Tasha stayed on the show.
That would be weird.
That would
It's
be
weird
wrong.
because they're all supposed to be his children. He can't do that. He can only have sex with Beverly because Beverly's the mom, but all the other ones are the kids.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that was
Jenny, you haven't heard my theory before? You haven't heard my family theory?
I'm not sure I want to.
Probably don't.
No. Star Trek's a family. Picard's the dad. Beverly's the mom. And Riker's a creepy uncle, and everybody else is the kids.
Oh, I don't like that
what?
at all.
Actually, somebody else said he's the creepy uncle, but I thought that was funny.
Probably Lola.
Yeah, Lola did not like Riker.
Season 1 Riker?
What?
Season 1 Riker.
Season 1 Riker, yeah.
No, season anything Riker.
Well, you don't like Riker in the mirror?
No, I love Riker. I'm just saying that Lola probably.
Well, Lola never saw past season 1, so.
Yeah,
I would
guess
also
so.
say that Jonathan Frakes' performance of Riker over the years has also been very consistent and very good. And in fact, he's become a better actor.
Yes.
But that's mostly because he's just playing Jonathan Frakes. So he's just himself throughout the years.
Nice guy.
He's a nice guy that's better at emoting as he gets older. Moving on. What, you gonna say something, Jenny?
No. My
Okay.
answer to the question, where did Lore get the droid roofies, has been answered. Thank you very much.
I think the problem for me with that scene is that, it's something we've seen a million times before. Like, you're gonna drug somebody, put something in their drink. So it makes Data look stupid. First of all, like, oh, I'll totally trust you, and he's already like suspicious of Lore.
Yeah,
and he's totally like, I'll drink this thing. But the other thing is, like, just from their robots, there'd be so many cool, interesting ways of debilitating or rendering Data unconscious,
Okay, with a cliche.
Yeah, like, do you know what I mean? Like the tricorder thing that Worf used in Insurrection, that was a cool thing.
they spent all the budget on the crystalline entity and the lab.
I
They
think
didn't have money to zap anybody after that.
Yeah, they didn't have money. They didn't have money to have writers.
But also, I will say, like, anything
GTP script.
Like if they do, well, let's say they do something technical, right? Like Lore stuns him with a phaser or something, or an EMP or something, right?
Yeah.
Like the ship's gonna detect that.
Yeah.
Right. It's gonna alert security.
Or at least Geordi will.
Or
when they send him to look. What do your outside see?
If Geordi happens to be outside looking through the window. Yeah.
Behold.
So I get that. Like, if you're going to do something clandestine, kind of secretive, that you can't alert the ship.
Clandestinely.
Yeah, that's why I didn't try to say that word. I was like, that's not going to work. So I did the Porky Pig. So and he can't overpower him with his strength, because they're going to get into a fight and they're both probably evenly matched. So,
okay, you're right. That's true. You win again. I feel like this whole episode is like the mere 5
the mere
and we're all 0.
I know.
It's like a James Bond villain chess player level of gamemanship. Okay, and then basically at this point, the episode becomes like Wesley saves the day once again. Because for some reason, Wesley is the only one who's smart enough to be like, wait a minute, this dude isn't right. This isn't right. Nothing here is right.
But he is kind of stupid when he comes into the room to check on him. And then he's like, oh, Data, don't do those things like Lore. If you do them, I might have thought you were Lore. Why didn't he think he was Lore? Like, if I was Wesley and I saw that way, I'd be like, you're totally not Data.
That felt like he was basically saying, like, I'm on to you.
Yeah, I felt like
at that point
he knew. As soon as he did the twitch, he was like, I think as soon as he walked in the room and there was one robot unconscious and the other one wasn't, he was like, something's weird.
Yeah,
and then
he's like, you didn't tell anybody about this.
I guess he probably didn't want to tip his hand, all that, because then he could just rip his arms off,
rip his head off, like it's just like
like, I'm just gonna leave now.
Yeah,
carry on.
But then, when he goes, as soon as he's at the bridge, he's like all over that. And everybody's like, shut up, Wesley. Shut up, Wesley.
The classic, shut up, Wesley.
That's my favorite line. That's my favorite part, where it's telling him to be quiet.
Oh.
And Wesley's like, I'm totally right.
Sir, I know this may finish me as an acting ensign, but...
Shut up, Wesley.
Shut up, Wesley?
Doctor.
Jenny.
That line is like, I understand it was being played kind of like for comedy-ish, but it's such a low moment for Picard. It's such a gross, like, reductive, like, just out of character, like, he just, that's just not, like, everything that they've developed in his character up to this point. Like, he congratulated Tasha for, like, asking a good question earlier, and then he's going to tell Wesley to shut up for no reason. It's not even like it like they set up a situation where Wesley won't be quiet. He literally says one thing, Picard says, don't talk, and then he says it again, and then he tells him to shut shut up. Like it's not like they have this ongoing, like there's no stakes. It's a completely unearned garbage moment, and I hate it. I hate it.
Rivaled only by the Picard doing the fake French accent as playing a pimp or something on that planet.
That was marvelous. That was chef's kiss.
Boy.
Fantastic.
In comparison or just in general?
In general. Are you kidding?
Oh my God.
It was supposed to be terrible.
I was thinking about that the other day, and I was going like, man, who was that made for?
It was literally supposed to be stupid. It was supposed to be bad.
And since I am finished here, sir, may I point out that...
Shut up, Wesley.
Okay,
we digress.
Man, we're digressing.
We're going to have a whole episode of just me defending all 3 seasons of Picard against the 3 of you.
You can't defend season.
Yes, I can.
And I don't know. I just don't understand why I don't believe Wesley. There's nothing about what Wesley's saying that's unbelievable.
No.
I know, right?
Well,
I think Picard doesn't like the idea of being called out. He's like, oh yeah, I'm being kind of stupid. Like, shut up.
Yeah, but right? But in the meantime, he's putting the ship at risk. Like,
oh, but they haven't seen what Wesley's saying, right? Like Wesley's character has his moments because he's observant and he's smart.
Yeah.
So he's noticing.
So they should trust his judgment when he says
but
these
he's
things.
Also like 10, right? So they, I don't know,
like
how old is he
16.
supposed to be? Is he 16?
He's 14, I think. Yeah, he's like 14, 15.
He's like 13,
yeah.
14, right?
Yeah.
So
they've let them do so many things already. They've already trusted him so many times for other things.
I know, but
so
that's kind of the hypocritical thing about it, right? Is they let him do all the tech stuff, but they still don't trust him. Like they still don't treat him like he's one of the bridge crew. And he says that, right? That like he's like, if this came from somebody else, you would believe them. But he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So that's
what he says when Picard tells him to shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or does his mother tell him to shut up?
That at least her shut up is actually more like, I don't love it either, but it's at least within the context of what's happening. And Picard being pissed off and like them dealing with this moment, her saying that to her son in a like way actually makes sense. It makes way more sense than Picard saying it. But it's still
true. Yeah. So then they go down to Data's quarters, and then Lore does that like pressing these little
that's a sexy
alarm clock, robot alarm clock.
Thank you for hunting that out for us.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever want to see that again.
Oh, it's so awkward. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
He's like making a sex thing.
And then he's like, he's being aggressive. He's like, no, he's having a seizure. That's not aggressive. He's not.
He's sensing you. You must go. And the thing is, the whole thing doesn't make any sense. If somebody did that, it'd be like, this is so suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that's like indefensible.
That was pretty bad.
That was really bad. That was a dumb moment.
Yeah.
But every episode gets like 1 or 2 dumb moments for free.
Maybe I'll die on this hill.
I will.
Right. So then the whole end of the episode is that he's basically called the crystalline entity who's gonna somehow feed on everybody in the ship. Yeah. I don't know how it's gonna fit inside the ship, but okay. And so it calls it, and then Laura goes to the bridge and pretends to be Data, and convinces everybody, oh, we should like show it our strength. Let's beam a tree and blow up a tree. And I'm like, where the are you gonna find a tree?
That literally sounds like something I wrote in a fanfic when I was 12.
I was like, wasn't this in the oral that they put a tree in space?
It's like, oh, just get one down at the Arboretum. We'll just tear it out of there.
Yeah, where the hell? They're literally out in the middle of nowhere. It's not like they're still at the planet. Where is he getting this tree from?
It's such a dumb plan. It's such a dumb plan. Yeah, it's like, it makes no sense. There's so many other ways they could show a port.
The thing is, that was even dumber is everybody just goes like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
And they just
destroy a tree.
And they just,
and how big is a tree compared to the Enterprise? formulating
Like, whatever happened to a warning shot? You know, like just
as far as twin torpedo across
yeah,
the bow of whatever.
Well, it was all like a pretext so that he could go to the cargo bay and do all that sort of stuff, and then there's the big ending where
it was a dumb pretext.
Wesley figures out and reactivates Data. That's really cool. And he's got the little like flap on his forehead.
That's the first time we've seen the inside of his noggin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then Laura gets really violent. He's gonna torch Wesley, and
he doesn't do mustache twirling there.
My favorite part of that whole thing is when he shoots Crusher, and Crusher's arm catches on fire, and she just runs out with her arm on fire.
Against every other established thing, like this is what a phaser does. Oh wait, no, it also sets fires.
Hey, hey, you skipped over the coolest part when Worf and Laura had their turbolift fight.
Oh yeah, that's so great.
When you go past that, the best moment of the whole episode.
Damn.
Emergency closed. Now show me your warrior fierceness.
I don't want to give Namir a chance to redeem it.
It doesn't need to be redeemed. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so
Like,
great.
I almost feel like his fist should have went right through war. That would have been cool.
Oh,
That would have been
well,
like modern.
been a different show.
That would have been modern day Deep Picard with the gore and the swearing and all that.
Oh my god.
They punch a Klingon right to the
Not the
chest.
swearing. Oh my vapors.
But then I was like, all right, like Klingons have like a exoskeleton, redundant organs, so he could probably take a chest punch.
Absolutely.
Right.
He can't
Yeah,
take a
it was
barrel,
fine.
but he can take a chest punch.
Oh,
No,
Actually, I thought that was funny because they were throwing those barrels around. They weren't blue, but they were basically the same barrels.
Oh yeah, they're like bouncing around. There's obviously
Yeah.
nothing in them.
Yeah, like Donkey Kong or something.
Yeah.
yeah. That scene with Worf and Data in the turbolift, like it makes the episode. That is the one thing where I go, I would have watched the whole episode that was just that.
Yeah, it was too
and
short.
unfortunately,
It
the
was great,
fight
but
is
it was
over.
too short.
The fight is over in about 2 seconds. It reminds me a little bit of there was a similar kind of scene where in Conspiracy where Admiral what's his face
Quinn.
like throws. Thank you.
Oh yeah,
Admiral Quinn throws LaForce through the door. He beats the shit out of Riker, and then he's like, "You and me, Worf, let's do this." And unfortunately, nothing happens? What happens?
No,
Oh, no, it's funny.
he kicks Worf's ass too.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
then
Worf
doesn't
always
like
gets his
Beverly
ass
come and
kicked.
Beverly comes and
Yeah,
phases
Beverly-
him, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think
Beverly
Worf
saves the
ever
day.
wins anything other than shooting another Klingon
Actually-
out of glory. He always gets his ass kicked in the first season.
He got his ass kicked in by the Ferengi and in
Yep,
the last outpost.
Oh
too.
yeah.
and he got
But
his
he-
ass. He got killed in hiding Q real quick. He
Mhm.
did do a couple cool moves, but then he died pretty quick.
That was a good death.
He did that, but he
It
still
looked
died.
very
He still
slow.
got beat.
And painful.
But yeah, I love how Michael Dorn sold that punch though. Like,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah, it was good.
I felt the impact.
Yeah. Every time I feel
That's
bad
great.
for him.
Yeah, you felt that. That's great.
Yeah, it's sort of like I'm disappointed that the fight is over like in 1 second, but also that's the only thing that makes sense. It's the only thing that makes sense in this whole episode.
Oh yeah.
What?
It's like
we
that's,
just spent
that's
this whole review making sense of the episode. Every time you're like, this doesn't make sense. I'm like, it makes sense because of this.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, okay. And then you move on to what are you talking about? The whole episode mostly makes sense.
You've only convinced Jenny. You have not convinced me that it makes any sense.
You
I
are
am-
unconvincible.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, but-
yeah.
So how do we feel about the ending of the episode? It's like they have to do like a classic like action scene, and Data throws Laura on the transporter pad, and Crusher beams him up into space. How do we feel about this?
Laura's gone. Oh wait, except like he's just floating off the starboard bow. And
Yeah, why did you shoot him as a show of force?
there's a level of like, oh well, that's done.
The Packwoods are going to find him later.
Yeah, just a little bit like, yeah.
Made no sense.
The thing is,
Yeah,
he's not like a
floating.
human, right? He wouldn't go out of space and then die. He'd just be alive, floating out of
And
space
getting
for like...
angrier and angrier.
Exactly.
Like, hurt you, human.
Yeah, I don't think the episode's about the ending. The ending was kind of dumb.
I don't understand why the
you know.
crystalline entity didn't just eat the Enterprise either. Like, why did it just give up?
I had the
'Cause
shield.
they had
The shields,
The
yeah.
shields.
Okay.
And you get them to drop the
And-
shields, right? And then
That was
we're
also
all
true.
gone.
understand
That was the
too.
purpose of the tree.
Why- I was like thinking about it too, where he says the crystalline entity was gonna like be so happy to get the Enterprise. I'm like, it's just a little ship. It eats whole planet. I was like, oh, here's a little morsel with 1,000 people on it.
Yeah.
It's like, and he like eating planet full of millions of people.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
I
that was a
don't-
little
I don't
weird.
know why the crystalline entity gets attracted to a little ship with 1,000 people on it, but
One of the
Alan,
things.
what do you think?
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to get Alan's impression of the climactic scene at
Okay.
the end.
oh, I like that theme. Because this a lot of times this show has such a glacial pace too, and it's like it's nice to see some action, like androids fighting. And
It was a cool like 90s action kind of thing where when they throw him on the transporter pad and he goes and shoots and then
Good.
the phaser and then the transporter, you can see the transporter beam catching the phaser.
Yeah, it was all very cool. I dug it.
I dug it too. See, episode redeemed. Jenny, what are you gonna say?
The one thing about the ending, I don't love that little thing that Picard and Riker do at the end, where they're like, beep, delete, there, and then they like,
Number one, have you ever considered whether Data is more human or less human than we want?
I only wish we were all as well balanced, sir.
Agreed.
it's just this sort of inane little back and forth thing that they do at the end. And I know that's a thing that they did, especially in season 1 or whatever. But anyway, but the main problem is that after they transport Lore and Data's there, and they're like, "Data, are you okay?" And he says, "I'm fine."
That's what I mean. I was going to say that too. That was the whole point of the episode. It was like, if you had used a contraction, I would have known. And that's the moment where Wesley's like, "Oh shit,
yeah,
that was the wrong guy being
right."
You all right?
Yes, sir. I'm fine.
And I'm just like,
that'd be
this,
funny. And then the
this
whole
is the
rest of
mistake
the
you
show,
leave in. Yeah.
Yeah, then the whole rest of the show, it's actually Lore that's
Right.
on the show.
Wow, it's like Professor Arturo from Sliders when they
Yeah.
let the real guy behind. I believe Jenny probably knows that.
What you mean?
I feel like Jenny knows Sliders, but you guys probably don't.
I
Yeah,
watch Sliders. I know
I know
Sliders.
it well enough to know that. Yeah.
Yeah. Heartbreaking.
No.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
are a
No
few
to Sliders.
incidents. You can look up the incidents where Data uses contractions through the show. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's one of them.
Yeah. It's funny because I've never noticed that before, but I was really paying attention this time, and I was like, "What? He just says I'm fine." It's
I
like
didn't even
it's
notice
so
that.
stupid.
Yeah.
Maybe they threw it in
I'm-
there to like leave you with a little bit of doubt, but it's
Maybe.
obvious that he's Data. Like, there's no
Mhm.
way
Yeah.
that the other guy was Data.
Yeah.
The other,
I did
the other
appreciate
time,
that.
Hello.
Sorry, I was just gonna say I did appreciate at the end. Like, normally when you have these like evil twin episodes, there's always a moment at the climax where you know, like there's a character that has to decide which one's the real.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? And it's always so lame. And they didn't do it in this. And so I was like, okay, good. They didn't do it.
I also appreciate
So that's,
the
that's
lack
like
of
a yeah.
Not like in the Star Trek 6.
How many times did you
Right?
do that in the original
Although
series?
that's
Yeah, and
excellent,
stuff
though.
like that.
I love that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did it, they did it in Whom Gods Destroy.
God destroy. I believe it might have happened in one of the little girls made it. Because there was an android Kirk in that one.
Right. And wasn't there, what, in the Enemy Within, was there a little like, which Kirk?
Yes.
Yeah.
But see so this episode is basically a mix between Enemy Within
Weird.
and Space Seed.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of has a
Yeah.
similar arc to Khan, where at first he's like welcome and rehabilitated, and they're not really sure who he is and if he's good. But then they let him like read the whole library of the Enterprise, and then he takes over the ship. And then enemy with him, he doesn't have a twitch. He has a scar.
Yeah,
and that's how they can tell.
And then and then this whole thing makes Starfleet send out a memo about trusting doubles. Evil twin. Here's my evil twin memo.
This is the new policy for when one of your crew gets doubled.
Yeah.
Establishing whether or not they're evil.
Unless there's anything else, we can go right to the ratings. We can all rate the episode at a 10.
Oh, right.
It is a 5 out of 10.
Oh, that's higher than I thought it was going to be.
Well, I mean, because I have a good time, I'm entertained, but probably half of my entertainment value comes from me making fun of it. But also, there is some cool stuff like the war fight theme, Brent Spiner's performance, the crystalline entity's cool. So there's some decent stuff in there, but it doesn't gel together in a clever package. So it's a 5 out of 10 for me.
Gonna give it a 10.
No, I was originally going to give it a 6, but I think that's not high enough if Alan's giving it a 5. Feels strange. So I'm going to give it a reluctant 7 because I liked it. I thought it was like it was a good episode. I didn't have as many problems with it as other people have. I thought it kind of made sense. I like the Lore character. He's great, obviously. I think Brent Spiner did an amazing job. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go with the 7.
Well, it's funny because this is my first TNG review with you guys. So I don't have a scale. I think I like Arsenal of Freedom more than Datalore. Believe it or not.
What?
Anyway. Yeah, that's right. Anyway.
You heard me. It's got a sausage separation and everything.
Really weird. So yeah, anyway. I think I'm going to call it a 7.
All right.
Yeah. We're heading into season 2. I'm good. Yeah, I don't know. I'll call it a 7. I feel pretty good about that.
I would give it a 6 out of 10. There's I would give high marks for the acting, for the music, for the production design, especially at the underground lab. And I will even say that the general story is quite interesting. The idea of like going back to his planet, getting the backstory of how it was created, and finding another data, essentially. I think that the story is good, but the execution in terms of the writing does not work at all on it. That's why I get something as low as a 6, because the premise would be more. We'll be back next week. Next week we'll be reviewing Angel 1, which is somebody's favorite episode.
I hate that episode.
It's gonna be so
good. Bad. Nobody wants to watch a review about Angel 1.
Jenny does.
Theater in the city.